There's new challenges to face on the edge of the galaxy and a new automated opponent
in Andromeda's Age Escalation expansion.
And today we'll be teaching you how to play the Escalation expansion for Andromeda's Edge, game designed by Luke and Maximus Laurie and published by Cardboard Alchemy.
And if you're not familiar with the base game, we'd recommend you to watch our how to play video for the base game.
And hi everyone, it's Tarrant.
And Stella here from Meeple University. And hey, if you enjoyed this video after watching, like, subscribe and comments, you know what to do. Alright, now let's get to the classroom.
Escalation is the first expansion to Andromeda's Edge. With 5 new features that you can integrate modularly into your play, this expansion adds new factions and ship upgrades, the Ancient Moons and Relics, the Nethervoid and Void Drake, the 5th player expansion, and Unity, the automated opponent which can be used in solo play or to increase board congestion in a 2 or 3 player game. For the new factions and ship upgrades, simply mix them in with those from the base game and begin playing as usual. But we'll take you through the changes step by step for each of the other 4 modules in this video. The first module is the 5-player mode, and the game gives you a new player board and a full set of white player pieces which the 5th player will use. There are fundamentally no new rules to play in the 5th player mode, except to know that in setup you use 10 starting planets instead of the 8 you'd use at a 4-player game, and it's highly recommended to use the medium or long length endgame trigger, not the short game. Additionally, to make sure there's enough on the board for everyone to interact with, it's highly recommended that you use both of the additional multiplayer modules which come with this expansion. The first of these modules is Ancient Moons and Relics. And the components for this module are the 6 new Ancient Moon tokens and the 16 new modules. Each module and 3 of the new moons have this relic icon on them. To set up, shuffle the new relic modules into their respective decks and deal out as usual. Then for the nebula moons, you choose whether to sub in the pink moons from the expansion for the blue moons from the base game, or to mix them all together. And if you do the latter, place 2 moons, both face up and in any combination, in each nebula. The only rule change throughout play is that any player who launches to a nebula chooses one among the moons that are presently face up there to take. Relic icons on moons or on modules have no effect during the game, but at game's end you'll count up the total number of relic icons you've collected, whether on damaged or undamaged modules or moons, and score points according to this table. The other new module is the Nethervoid, and it is designed to be used with these 3 sets of components: the Nethervoid tile, the Void Drake Raider, and the Shadows of the Void events. In setup, you'll place the Nethervoid tile on this space showing the matching icon. You must use Void Drake as your C-Class Raider, and its standee begins in play on the Nethervoid. And this is in addition to the S-Class Raiders who normally begin in play. On the event board, use the Shadows of the Void deck in its entirety in place of one of the base game decks. When you launch into the Nethervoid, you'll gain 1 reward based on a die roll. And for that die roll, based on the ship you sent in, roll its usual number of battle dice and pick any one among the results to gain. You do not have to choose the highest roll. Like in battle, you can also choose to spend energy or any combat battle cards which affect your die roll to improve your chance of getting the roll you want. So in this case, the transport with 1 battle die could spend an energy and this card to get a void roll of 3 dice and the chance to re-roll with a targeting value of 3. This is strictly for cards which would impact your battle roll only. None of the other rules or steps of battle apply. Otherwise, what this module brings is how the Void Drake and the Shadows of the Void events will interact with the Nethervoid. The Void Drake Raider sucks players' ships into the Void, and so every time the Void Drake strikes on any player's turn, all players with a ship in the active region must move one of those to the Void, which takes it out of the current battle. Meanwhile, for the events, every event has some effect which will impact players' ships that are within range of the Void. Half of these are positive. This one, for example, each player with at least one ship within range of the Nethervoid gains a free commerce or civilization module, while this one looks at each ship within one range of the Nethervoid and damages it. So now we come to the Unity module. Unity is the automated opponent, which you can use to facilitate solo play or increase board congestion in a 2 or 3 player game. Set up the main board and human player components based on the player count as if Unity were an active player. So here, for a solo game versus Unity, I've set up the main board for a 2-player game. Use the white coloured pieces for Unity. Stack all of Unity's ships on their matching spaces on the player board. Take this piece, the Unity probe, and place it in the top leftmost region. Do note this was an error in the first printing of the rulebook, where it referred to placing this only in a planet. The full rules are that it goes in the top leftmost region. Place one Unity leader in each of the 6 bases, exactly as you would for the human players, but you do not place 2 in a nebula. Instead, for the remaining leaders, place 2, as well as 5 in a non-player colour in Unity's leader section. These all behave exactly the same as if they are Unity leaders, while the 8th leader becomes known as the command marker. Choose one of the commanders. These are essentially the faction tiles for the Unity player, and they come in 3 levels of difficulty. Place the card above the board, and add the command marker to the top step of this wheel. The wheel represents some automated actions that Unity is going to take throughout play, and this command marker tracks where Unity is on that wheel. Unity's starting track steps are shown here, so take the track markers and add them to their starting spaces accordingly. Place Unity's starting score as if they're last in turn order. Set up and shuffle Unity's 5 personal decks. The action card decks 1, 2 and 3, the conflict cards and the upgrade tokens. Flip the top card of each action deck face up. The top cards of these decks are always face up, and it means you'll always be able to see the 3 possible options for Unity's next action. Finally, there's a few components to swap out, which are all of the development cards, and a handful of the individually named event cards. In each case, the card as it applies to the human players is identical. The new component has simply added some extra text telling you how that card applies to Unity. Unity is an automated opponent which will take turns and fight against you throughout the game, gaining its own points according to some modified rules. On the board, you can pretty much think of Unity as a full opponent. It's going to launch to regions, compete with you for the things that you want, engage in battles against raiders or against you, and block you out of planets by building developments and scoring the usual points. Off the main board, they're more like soulless accumulators. They'll maintain their collections of the various things they take from the board that you might want, but they don't really use them in the same way a human player would use them. They just collect them for points at the end of the game. Collected moons, for example, might just as well be blank. They're simply collected and worth 2 points each at the end of the game, but not used for any other effect. I'll explain exactly how Unity interacts with each of these components later in the video. In the solo game, you'll take the first turn and simply alternate back and forward between yourself and Unity. You can take this marker, the con, to remind you to take Unity's turn. In a higher player count game that includes Unity, at setup give the con to whichever player is last in turn order. The human players will play clockwise around the table, and then Unity will take its turn after whoever has the con. Each time an event is drawn and resolved, after resetting, hand the con one step clockwise. Then continue to follow the same rule of Unity taking a turn after whoever has the con. Most aspects of Unity's turns are fully automated, but if there is any scenario where it's ambiguous as to what Unity should do, it's the player holding the con who gets to make the decision. This small benefit is offset by the fact that it's slightly more likely that the player with the con will get attacked by Unity. Do note again here, I reset the event marker to the 4-player slot since I'm including Unity in my player count. The other major rule change to know for the human player's turns is the Unity probe. Any time during the game that a human player launches to an alliance base or to a planet, the Unity probe automatically moves to that location. Certain Unity actions refer to the location of the probe, which is why it's slightly more dangerous to hold the con. The probe will not follow you if you launch to a nebula or another special tile. So, how does a unit take its turns? First, I'll take you through a launch turn. A launch turn is resolved in these 8 steps. Roll d6, launch ship, resolve action, recruit, special action, raider strike, battle, and discard. First is a launch turn. The first step is to roll a die. This tells you which of the 3 rows Unity will play from. Unity will launch the next lettered ship, so this could be right to left or left to right, depending on which side of the board you're using. Here it's the heavy cruiser. That ship is launched to the location shown on the top card in that row. Here, for example, it's to the rightmost undeveloped planet, like so. Some cards relate to a specific tile, and some relate to a location relative to Unity probe. Here it would be the tile to its left. So in this case, launching here. Unlike the human players, Unity ships can launch to regions that already have other Unity ships. And all Unity ships have attack, meaning the first launched ship can share a space with another player. However, no Unity ship has voyage, meaning none of them can launch to or move through nebulas. If a card tells Unity to launch to an invalid location, so here it's pointing at a nebula, instead launch directly to the Unity probe. In the specific case of the science vessel, Unity has an on-launch ability, such that wherever it launched, it claims the leftmost nebula moon. Step 3 is resolve action. If Unity launched to a planet, the action is to claim the top moon from that planet. If Unity launched to an alliance base, the action is to move the command marker 1 step around the wheel and gain the benefits shown. Here it would be gaining a civilization module. More on how these actions and benefits work later. Step 4 is recruit. Unity takes one of their own leaders, as well as any resources, on the location they launch to. Leaders go to the leader pool, and resources are handled differently. I'll talk about those shortly. Step 5 is special action. Resolve the icon in the top left corner of the card being resolved, and this could be to advance the event marker, or another Unity action. Step 6 is Raider Strike, which behaves exactly like it does on a human turn. Step 7 is Battle. Go through the normal battle sequence with 3 changes. And do note, these rule changes apply to battles on your turns as well as Unity's. The first is that when it's time to escalate, Unity will automatically escalate with every ship that it can, which is within range, except for a transport on an undeveloped planet. Do note, unlike a player cruiser, which has one range but the chance to jump infinite range, Unity's cruiser has infinite range at all times and therefore escalates into every battle. Secondly, even though Unity may hold some tactics cards, it never plays them during battle. Instead, during the diplomacy step only, Unity flips and resolves the top card from the Unity conflict deck. This is the only card it plays in battle. It will never resolve anything during the die rolling steps. Resolve Unity wins or losses in battle the same way you would the human players, including gaining supremacy on victory, or damaging or moving ships to scrapyard on defeat. However, the third difference is that unlike human players, Unity has no immediate consolation benefit upon defeat. The final step of a Unity launch turn is discard. Discard the card that was resolved and reveal the new top card of that deck. Unity's various actions work as follows. When Unity gains a moon, simply add it to the moons section. This will be worth 2 points at game's end. When Unity gains a module, it takes the cheapest available module of its type, advances on the corresponding track, adds it to its rows, and damages if applicable. When given the choice among multiple module types, Unity takes the one it has fewest of. Unity modules serve no action purpose, but still lose points in events or at game's end if damaged. When Unity takes a repair action, Unity's first priority is to repair a damaged module, it does not matter which one, and only if all are repaired will it repair a ship. If Unity ever obtains a resource of any kind, return it to the supply and instead take one tactics card, placing it face down. As mentioned in battle, Unity never uses tactics cards. These are simply collected as generic resources, and their sole functions are that if Unity ever has to lose a resource or have one stolen by a player, this comes randomly from the tactics card pile, and any leftover tactics cards at game's end will score on the commerce track to a maximum of 15 cards. The other bonuses on the 5 tracks also work differently for Unity compared with the human players. On the civilization track, when reaching a bonus, Unity draws 3 tactics cards. Upon reaching a supremacy token, take it and store it here for 3 endgame points. The empty space grants 2 points immediately, the way it would a human player. Upon reaching a science stack, randomly gain 2 of the tokens, again stashing them for 3 endgame points each. Finally, for the industry track, or indeed anything which grants a ship's upgrade, instead draw and resolve the top token from this deck. This may grant a once-off immediate ability, or an ongoing power. Unity never has to actually upgrade or build ships because all of their ships begin available. Finally, Unity can build developments. When this action is resolved, find the leftmost undeveloped planet containing a Unity transport. Check its leader cost, pay that number of leaders, and place the development. Unity now immediately scores points exactly as a human player would by counting up all present and adjacent leaders to a maximum of 10. Unity takes the corresponding development card, immediately gains both its track advancement and its Unity benefit, and then flips it over where its points will contribute to endgame scoring. If Unity tries to develop but either doesn't have a transport on the board or doesn't have enough leaders to pay for the leftmost available transport, then the development is lost. Unity triggers a return to station turn if it rolls for a row that has no ships. Resolve such a turn in 4 steps: develop, command, scrapyard, and return. First is develop, which works exactly like a launch turn develop action. Second is command. Whereas a human player would now be activating a module with each ship brought back from the board or from the repair barge, Unity instead uses each such ship to activate one step on their command wheel. The third step is scrapyard, and here Unity takes back any ship in their scrapyard, gaining 2 points for each. Finally, return all ships to their slots on the board, healing damage on shields if necessary, and arranging transports from lowest number to highest number. That means once Unity has started building transports into developments, you'll always rearrange ships so the highest numbered developments are empty, even if that means moving an undeployed transport to a different row. Once the end of the game has been triggered, Unity's last turn will always be a return to station, except in the case that their penultimate turn was return to station, in which case they'll launch. Now count up final points. From their board, Unity scores 1 point per leader, 2 points per moon, 3 points per token, and loses 2 points per damage module. They score nothing for undamaged modules, including endgame civilization modules. For leftover tactics cards, up to a maximum of 15 cards, score according to the commerce track. Unity scores track points like any human player, meaning they've been scoring the points off the event cards as they come up, and they score the position on every track at game's end. They likewise score developments based on the level they've reached on the appropriate track. If you're using the relevant modules, they score the same points as players would for adjacency to quasars or vortices, score the same set collection bonus for relic icons, and if you are using destinies, you will have dealt 2 of these to Unity at the start of the game, and at the end of the game they're revealed and Unity scores the higher of the 2. Compare your score with Unity's to see whether you win.
Thanks for watching! We also have the Genesis expansion tutorial linked below. And if you like this video, maybe you'd like to watch this next one. Have a great day. Bye!